What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 26 of the podcast. At least I believe it's episode 26. Today we have my dad on the episode. Did another fun one because him and my mom are only in town for another week or so. So I wanted to make sure I at least got one more episode in with him because we always have super fun conversations and we can literally talk for hours. Today we got a solid 90 minutes for you if you want to watch all of that. We have a lot of fun. We talk about a lot of different things and I try to give him a little bit more room to talk and not interrupt him as much as I did last episode. But I was just so excited to talk to him about so many different things because like last episode I almost felt like I was like, oh, this is going to be like your only chance to really just get into it and talk with them because they're not out here that much because, you know, it's a crazy time. But hope you guys enjoy this episode. And don't forget to check out our website, www.bmsglass.com, and we have more Sunday sales coming up. Not huge ones, but we're going to have some really fun, unique, and we're going to have some affordables. This next Sunday sale is going to be all like affordable pieces, micros and stuff like that, but unique colorways that we don't normally do, like some fades and stuff, but they're not going to be any more expensive, but you'll still be able to get a cool fade. I'm looking for my torch right now. This is real deal. There she is. I missed my dab, guys. It's okay, though. But yeah, I hope you guys have had a good week. Next week is Big Z. It is confirmed. It's going down. He's really excited to come down. Him and his lady are renting a camper, and they're gonna like just drive down because he lives a few hours away from me. And because I think he wants to get out of the smoke too, because we got some fires going down in Colorado right now, and I think up north where he is a little extra smoky. So we're excited to have Big Z in the studio. He's gonna be like the first artist I've had in the collabing in the studio in a long time. It's been a minute because of everything going on. So I'm really excited to have him here and make a few pieces. We're gonna do some different stuff. Like we're definitely gonna have some RBRs, but I want to do some different stuff that I don't normally do. And I think he's down because I was like, dude, I don't normally sell pieces like this, but are you down to make this? And he's down. So I'm excited to get into it with him and then have him on the podcast and just learn more about him. So, but that's going to be next week. Hope you guys enjoy this week. I'm going to get a dab in. And yeah, I'm fucking already so stoned, guys. We just did like an hour and a half with my dab and it was just like crazy amount of talking. It was wild. Props to my producer for standing here and listening to us just talk about random shit for an hour and a half straight. Oh, man. Yeah, I'll do it right now. Hey, if any of you guys live in Colorado Springs and want to get into the podcast with me, if you guys love this podcast and want to be part of it, send us an email. I don't even want to promote this on Instagram because it's not for those people. If you guys want to be part of the team, if you think that you can do it, and you don't have to be in Colorado Springs, but you got to be close enough where you can commute. But reach out to us via email at Bear Mountain Studios, and let's at least get the conversation going. All right. Thought it'd be a good time to at least just bring that up because we need some help. We need some team members. We can't be making Mark drive an hour and a half down here all the time. It's crazy. It's a 3-hour round trip. That's like driving. I don't know if you guys are from the East Coast, but it's like driving through Pennsylvania every day. That's crazy. All right. That was my messy, shitty intro. Hope you guys loved it. Here's the episode. Later, everybody. Fuck yeah, bro. Civil War.
When Evan, God, it was one Christmas, we drove to Gulf Shores in Alabama, right? We didn't stick around New York State, we would just up and split all of us. Yeah. So Evan's down there with his buddy Dana and they're skateboarding. And Southern kids coming up, most were cool, but one of them comes up and he was just that stereotypical thing you would see from the South of the 40s and 50s.
This is the first time I've ever been called a Yankee in a disrespectful way.
Yeah. It's kind of like,
what are you doing down here, you Yankee?
What are you doing here, boy? I
was like, shit.
You go, seriously, really?
I grew up in West Virginia.
Yeah. Oh, whoa, that's hardcore.
Well, that's coal country. Coal countries, They're rednecks. The true rednecks came from West Virginia. The original.
Didn't it have to do with people wearing like a red bandana?
Yeah,
or
it had to
something?
do with the coal strikes, all through West Virginia, unionizing the coal fields, and the coal bosses saying no, and literally they had to call out the National Guard because about 2,000 to 3,000 coal workers were armed and marching down the fight down in, I want to say either it was southern West Virginia or Kentucky, one of the either. You know, I believe it was southern West Virginia.
They marched out to fight the
Oh, yeah,
Union?
they were armed.
Oh,
And
crazy.
so they were going to have an all-out fucking civil war. And you know something? That was the age of pure capitalism. That's why a president like Teddy Roosevelt said, excuse me, the monopolies, bullshit, we're breaking them up. You know, Standard Oil, fuck you. Railroads, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what happened. And again, they try to minimize that president, Teddy Roosevelt, who was just, you know, the first national parks. Yeah, again, you have to judge a man by his time. The guy was a hunter and everything, but he also realized that if you don't protect this, it ain't going to be here. So that's, you know, Yellowstone. I want to say Yosemite
Yeah.
was another one.
I've never been there. I want to go there. It looks incredible.
Yeah, I just, you know, people want to set up committees and everything else, and I'm a firm believer. Or go, okay, we have to do this. Let's get together and do it. You know, that's
Action.
take action. Don't sit down and let somebody steal the narrative by their committee meeting, and then we'll bring in my people. Well, fuck your people.
Do you think now
Where the
is...
fuck were they before? We're here now. Let's do it.
So that's my main issue with like even just like Black Lives Matter movement. Like there's like I don't want to say like counterintelligence marches, but like there are these marches that are mostly led for like these like PR stunts. And,
Oh,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
celebrities and like NFL players.
Absolutely.
And
It takes away from the message. What the
they have nothing to do with like the true organizers of like the Denver PSL, which is like the Party of Socialism and Liberation.
yeah.
They're the ones who have been mostly leading these like great marches and organizing these great protests. Because
They have lost the American public
yeah.
because of violence. And all you have to listen, Martin Luther King Jr. always invoked what Gandhi said. You know, and Gandhi said it right. He goes, I'm a Hindu, Christian, Muslim. You know? I mean, and Gandhi always, basically what he was saying there is, hey, we're all trying to get to the same place. We're trying to get to nirvana. We're trying, you know, and the way to do that is through peaceful means. You know, be it for me to judge you for who you are, my norms may be different than yours. You know? So where do I come off? And again, if you want to use your religious context, we're not gods. We're just these little creatures running around going, hey, somebody created all this, you know? And
At least in our perspective.
at least in our, well, I don't care.
Well, the way our minds look at
There
things, that's
is
how we
not
rationalize it.
one type of human group on the planet that doesn't have some sense of a creation story or what happens after death.
Of course.
You know? And again, I was saying last time about that thread of
I love
truth.
how similar most creation stories are, too.
Well, there's
I love it.
there's a common story. Again, men are storytellers. That's what we do. We're oral historians.
Well, that's what the podcasts are. We're just talking and telling stories and talking about ideas. And I feel like nowadays people don't get that as much, especially at home and stuff. People are so immersed in their phones or immersed in this, and they're seeing quick things.
Human beings like to have a comfort zone. Okay, we'll take Uncle Matt. Okay, Uncle Matt comes home, right? He smokes 2.2 bong hits and drinks 2 shots of tequila and listens to 3.5 songs.
So he has a very strict thing he does every day.
But his existence, he's made this bubble, so all is well. Okay,
I think I do that too.
Well, I have always been one to. I don't like to be in a bubble.
Yeah.
Because that feels like control. That's why I never wanted to belong to this group or that group. I played sports.
You weren't just a basketball, or you weren't just a football.
I'm not out there. It's life and death. It was a game to play.
Yeah.
You know, and I always thought the main part was the camaraderie, working together, trying to achieve something.
Definitely.
You know, so
that's what I learned
That's the
from
lesson
sports.
you're supposed to learn from sports, that you can achieve things.
I learned that, but what I found I loved about skateboarding, because when I started really getting into skateboarding when I was like 9 or 10, it was like I loved that I didn't have to rely on that team, even though I learned a lot of things from playing like basketball.
But what you realize as you skated more and more, there was a team. Yeah. There was a group of people.
Yeah.
And the people that were into it, they cheered each other on.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, you'd always get the pricks say, yeah, I'm the best skateboarder in the world.
That's why I love this glass blowing industry. Most people, I'd say 99% of them are cheering people on. There's obviously a few people that are a little sour.
Humans,
but,
you know, remember we had, you know, Uncle Joe Stalin and Adolf and...
I heard a crazy Stylez quote the other day. Like, this could only come from a man that's killed billions of people. But he was talking about how one death is a tragedy, but a million deaths is just a statistic or a number. Yeah. Like, how crazy is that? He can rationalize. He was like, oh, yeah, if one person dies, I know them. That's what a tragedy. But I could go kill a million, and it's just a number. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, you got to remember, before World War II started, Stalin took out. Now you have an officer corps, okay, and it would be like if a president went to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, walked in and wiped them all out. He wiped out, I want to say, 70 to 80% of his officer corps. All right? So now you got a guy like Adolf coming, yeah, you're my friend, you're my friend, you're my friend. Okay, let's invade.
Oh, my God.
Right?
Yeah.
Stalin knew Churchill, they had broken the Enigma code because they got one of their coding machines. The Poles, before they were invaded by the Nazis, they had broken their code.
Yeah.
And they had one of the machines they built, like reverse engineering, just amazing guys. They ended up at what was it? What was the name of the place in England where all the communiques were deciphered in that? Shit, they even made a movie about it. In fact, the guy that made the computer, this thing was amazing, right? He makes this whole thing, right? And in England at that time, if you were gay, there's a movie. The guy that plays Doctor Strange is the lead character in this movie. I can't think.
I know what movie you're talking about.
You gotta watch this because you see, I mean, this guy was just brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, he's brilliant on the way like Tesla was because he built this computer.
Yeah.
And know what the Brits did?
Was this the computer they were using to decipher code?
Yes.
And they were deciphering the
And as soon as the war was over, the Brits tore it all apart.
Because they didn't want anyone to know the technology.
And they vilified him. They just vilified him.
It's because he was gay.
Because he was gay. I mean, how fucking stupid's that?
So stupid.
You know, it is. It's you know, who gives a... Hey,
I just don't know why people...
Guess what? You know, I remember I told you, you know, what was it, last week?
I don't know why it matters who you love.
I know.
Such a silly...
That's, again, if you believe in what Christ said, you know, love one another.
Yeah.
This is cool. Everything's cool. You know, the Old Testament, that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Literally, if...
I don't know. I love all that. I think it's the stories and some of that shit is just so crazy. Like alien, like the shit they talk about in the Old Testament. I'm like, that's what they should have taught us
Ezekiel,
when I was a little kid. And went to school.
What was the one? There was one, Enoch.
Yeah.
The book of Enoch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of, you know, when they rewrote the Bible, they kind of just put like a line in there for him. And he was here and he did this. Okay, that's enough. Let's move on. No, wait, man.
Well, there was a lot.
He did a lot of shit. You know.
You gotta get your mic. Oh, me? Oh, I'm blowing it. Shit, my dad's nice and loud, so he's killing it. But back to millions of people dying. I was listening to a crazy, not to sound super negative, but I was listening to a crazy podcast. It's like one of my favorites, Hardcore History with Dan Carlin. I don't know if you've checked it out yet.
No.
I need to send you this stuff because I listen to him all the time.
Well, that's what I'll do once I go back to Florida.
I'll send you like awesome history podcasts where they just
Well,
go
I'm working on my stamps. I'll have that on.
I was listening to one about Genghis Khan though. So crazy. Like there was this story I was listening to about basically like how the Islamic Empire found out about the Khans and like this group of people because like an early like Islamic, what was he called? It was a Shah, I think was what they called him.
Yeah.
And that was like the name of their kings or their leaders, whatever. He was a Shah, and he sent a group of spies to China, or they called it like a religious emissary or like a missionary.
Didn't come out good.
Yeah, he sent a group of spies to China.
Yeah.
Because China was this.
They'll never get success.
It was like this magical place. It was like this place that like everyone talked about and was like, you know, they have these huge walls and these great cities and all this technology. It was a magical place. So he sent spies there because he was like, I want to invade this fucking place because if they have all this technology, all this wealth, they're a super old civilization. They want to know their technology. So he sent some spies there under the cover of that they're a religious emissary. But when this emissary started getting closer to the main city in northern China, which is now like Beijing, but I think it was called like Zhangdu or something like that.
Okay.
We're talking like this was 1200 or 1215. This was a long time ago. We're talking like 800 years or so ago. But when this Islamic emissary, this group of dudes were coming up on this city, they saw these like snow-capped mountains. Like there's not supposed to be mountains in this area. And as they got closer, they realized these were giant mountains of bones. These were human bones that were big enough to be mountains that were snow-covered. And they were just like in shock with the amount of death. And the road they were walking on was disintegrating. It was so greasy from so many bodies like rotting in the city up north and flowing down the streets. It turned the streets into grease and the streets were decaying. So they actually had to make new roads to get to now modern day Beijing, which was Zhangdu back then. I can't say it right because I'm some white guy from upstate New York. So, but it was like the amount of death, there was over 1 million people living in that city. And when they got to this city, like these religious emissaries were like, this is one of the greatest cities we've ever seen. We've never seen technology like this. These are the most powerful people in the world, but who came here and killed them? There's someone more powerful than the Chinese. Who are they? And that's like episode 2 of this Khan podcast, the Wrath of the Khans I listened to. So crazy that like that's how the Islamic empires were introduced to the Khans. They were going to see the greatest empire on planet Earth, which was the Chinese, and someone just killed one of their cities of over 1 million people and just made mountains of bones, and every single person.
That's how Genghis Khan said, "You're either with me or you're against me."
Yeah.
And obviously they made a poor choice.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely.
Genghis Khan is the one that took all that technology China had gathered over thousands of years and incorporated it for his grandsons and the grand treasure fleet, right?
Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts of like Chinese history is like they sent this fleet of ships out to just give people gifts.
But over the world.
Over the world. They traveled all over the fucking world. Like
they figured they got to North America around 14.
Yeah, they got here before all of us.
Yeah, we definitely.
Because there's certain tribes that have stories about these like magical things that came, like people that came from the ocean and brought all these gifts and technology.
And you look at the treasure ships they had.
How cool must have that have been? These like giant ships, golden ships, sailing around the world, just giving people gifts. And that's what the Chinese did for I think it was about 60 years. They did that.
But they invaded Japan.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where the term kamikaze comes from, divine wind.
Yeah.
Is because that fleet was sitting off the coast and a typhoon came in.
And wiped them out. Yeah. So that like kamikaze is named after like that typhoon that wiped out.
That's what the term is. It means divine wind.
Oh, shit.
But again, years later, you had a bunch of militaristic idiots.
Yeah.
Okay. This is how we're going to save the empire.
Well,
you're going to get in the plane and fly into a ship.
Didn't the Americans name it kamikaze though?
No.
No, the Japanese did?
Well, the Japanese did because that was part of the ceremony. They did. You got to understand, Japan at that time, you had an emperor, so it was an imperial, king, queen, duchy, serf.
Yeah.
And to die for the emperor was, oh man, it's,
Greatest honor.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're gonna end up in eternity. You're gonna do great.
Yeah.
Because you gave your whole life was for the emperor.
Yeah.
What you wanted was secondary. And I mean, it's they would convince. I mean, to convince one person to sit there and get in a plane that has enough gas.
Yeah.
And then, okay, your job is to just aim at aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
They did that with their last gasp for their naval fleet. They sent the Yamato, which was the biggest battleship in the world, and they were just going to send all these ships at once. And basically, it was on a kamikaze with ships.
Yeah, just run into everything.
Run into things, and you have this. They can never sink the Yamato.
Yeah.
And they had to pound the shit out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, but they sunk it. But
I've never heard about that battleship. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah, there was a sister ship to Yamato that was. These battleships were ridiculous. I mean, the Japanese. And the reason they had the Navy that they had was because the racist attitudes of the European powers at that time looked at the Japanese. Oh, they're little short people with squinty eyes, and they can't see very well.
They won't be able to do anything to us.
Yeah. We're
the arrogance.
The empire, we can. And
I think that's what we need to evolve out of as a species is the arrogance and the just like.
Oh, my group's better than your group.
Oh, yeah.
You're asking people to stop being animals and being humans.
I think that's. I think that our technology is evolving faster than our social skills as humans. So I think right now we have all this technology, but I think we still have the social skills of people from 2,000 years ago. We're animals still, but we just this technology.
I remember we were talking about. The Civil War was a precursor of what was going to happen in World War I.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we've gone from that analog imperial age, had massive global wars, a 40-year nuclear Cold War.
Yeah.
That we sat there and aimed missiles at one another all around the world. And now what you're having is, since the colonialism collapsed, all right, you had the main powers of the planet and all their little colonies and subsidiaries. Let's call them that.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have that anymore. You've got 188 countries on the planet, and trying to get everybody on board with something, And when colonies collapsed, not all of them were, we're all for the people. We're going to do everything for the people. You had a lot of little, what do you call them? Little dictators, tin hat dictators, they call them, or something like that.
It's crazy they have Genghis Khan on money. Could you imagine if George Washington went and killed a city of over 1 million people and turned the ground to Greece?
Well, you're talking about Mongolia.
Maybe he did. Fuck if we know. That was 300 years ago. Maybe he did kill
200
cities
years ago.
Maybe he killed cities of millions. I should have
brought that book. I have those books I brought out that quotes of the founding fathers, quotes of George Washington, and the one I always thought was cool was this other one, How to Act in Public as a Gentleman.
I don't know, man. When was that book written? Because the first guy that told doctors to wash their hands, the first doctor that was guys, we should wash our hands. I think that's why everyone's getting sick. They put him in a mental institution and pumped him full of drugs. Oh, yeah. Because all the other doctors were like, gentlemen, don't wash their hands. We're gentlemen. These shits are clean. So they'd cut off someone's infected leg and then go deliver a baby in the next room and infect the wife with gangrene, whatever, a bacteria on that rotten leg from the other room. So don't be the first, everybody.
What do you think medicine
Don't be the
is?
first guy to say something. Just be the third. And then
chopping off somebody's leg is not medicine. It's called butchery,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. And of course, during the Civil War, they were shooting 50 caliber musket balls that were actually slow velocity.
Oh, yeah. They just.
So when they hit you, it was this big hunk of lead that would just.
Terps.
Rip into you.
Yeah.
And just kind of tumble around,
It's horrible.
So if you got hit in the leg, they had this stuff called grape shot, too. Okay, so you have one of their cannons, and the canister is like a bunch of ball bearings about the size of say $50, right? You shoot that out of a cannon. Of course, everybody's marching in straight lines, not hiding behind trees or doing any cool stuff like that.
No.
They're just marching out there, and you've got 20 cannons, and they just open up. It's like Pickett's charge.
The Napoleonic Wars, they were doing that mostly?
No, it's the Civil War.
Oh, so
The Napoleonic Wars, if you look at the Battle of Waterloo, the Duke of Wellington was the leader of the British and Allied forces against Napoleon and the Prussian forces, okay? And the way they beat Napoleon was Napoleon had great cavalry, the best in the world. So what they did was set up in fighting boxes, okay? So you take your soldiers and make boxes all across the battlefield. So now what you done, instead of the force of that cavalry charge coming in and displacing everyone, you're taking the cavalry and busting it all up. So they don't have the speed, they don't have the ferocity.
Yeah.
They don't have
all the horses
advantage.
are turning instead of moving
Turning,
forward.
yeah, so
everyone's
it's
turning.
like shooting pool. There's angles in that. And, they just got wiped out. I mean,
Do you know why all those dudes used to wear those powdered wigs back in the day?
probably because they smelled so bad. No one took baths.
I mean, that's a
That's
good
why
guess.
perfume.
Perfume was part of that.
Oh,
But do you
yeah,
know why
well-
the actual wealthy had these powdered wigs on? It was because during that period, syphilis was so rampant through the wealthy upper class of people that their fucking heads were literally rotting. They would have open holes in their head where you could see
I
their
could believe
their
that.
skeleton. So they would wear these powdered wigs to cover up their fucking sinking in head and everything. It would hide the syphilis. So yeah,
Do you realize one of the biggest waves of syphilis?
look some of that shit up. It's gross, everybody.
Yeah, there was, you'd get these surges of diseases.
Yeah.
After World War I, syphilis was one of those diseases that surged in the United States. And again, soldiers coming back,
I think sometimes it's just interesting to see where certain trends start and then they become part of our culture. Like, isn't it over in their legal system over I don't know if it's somewhere in Europe where they still wear the wigs.
Oh, absolutely.
They're smaller. They're smaller now. But
not necessarily.
I mean,
they still have in the British courts.
Yeah, the British courts. Yeah,
They do it in India.
But
too,
that
in the Indian
originates
courts.
from a STD, and they're still wearing those. Just
that may have been part of it, but also
That would,
it was the way.
from what
If you look at the British,
from what YouTube says, bro. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Anytime someone says they know something and they saw it in a YouTube video, it's like a joke.
yeah, you got if
I learn everything
over
on
in
YouTube.
England, if you go into a courtroom, first of all, you'll see the defense and the prosecuting attorneys. They wear robes and they have certain powdered wigs on that will have, let's say, ribbons on them and that. So it kind of says, okay, that's what you are, that's what you are. Then the judge comes in, and his robe is that bright red. You'd think of the red coats.
Yeah.
Bright red and that. And his wig is a little bit more elaborate to show his position, in the courtroom and that. So, I mean, they do it over in India still because, but the British Empire. India didn't become a free country until after World War II.
Yeah, that's insane.
But was even more insane about that, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan were all India.
Yeah.
After World War II, and that's when they assassinated Gandhi.
Yeah.
That's when Gandhi was keeping India together as a country. As soon as they assassinated him, it shattered. And it was this massive move of people. You had Pakistan, which was Bangladesh. Okay? And Pakistan was where the wealthier Muslims moved.
Yeah.
The Bangladesh area of Pakistan at the time, they were the poor. You know,
I love them. I love some of like the megalithic stuff in India and like all the different
well,
like,
Bangladesh
their
is
history
going to
is
be
so interesting. Like,
you know, with ocean levels rising, Bangladesh.
what's
is
that one
screwed.
city called? Dakar or Darak?
That's
or,
on the
It's out in the ocean now.
Wow,
But it was like,
but they have one city that kept its name because that was supposed to be, oh God,
the birthplace of what's his face.
of
He's real important.
yeah. I'm trying to think. He was.
Are we allowed to assume God's genders nowadays?
Oh, I don't know. I
Okay.
mean, first of all, that's again the
I'm
idea.
just kidding. Let's not get into it.
If
But
you're going
what
to
was
call
his name?
God a male, that means you've. Okay, so if he's a male, is there a female God?
Yeah, is there a counterpart? Or
Yeah.
they have to be asexual?
First of all, humans aren't supposed to figure this shit out.
No, it's not
because
for us.
we're a bunch of dumbasses. You know, we got this whole world to work with, and all we can do is make stuff to kill one another.
I know.
You
It's crazy.
You think
It's
about the
crazy.
mind trust.
Yeah.
That if you took all those energies that you put out to create things to kill, maim, destroy, wipe out, whatever,
Dad.
and go, gee,
That's why I wonder if like all this stuff Elon Musk is trying to do with Neuralink, because you know like the theory on Neuralink, or at least what he wants it to be able to do, is to widen the broadband of your brain. So right now, when we want to look something up, we go to either a book or we go to Google and we type it in. So we have to like look, type it in, this and that. But the idea with the Neuralink is to put this lace in your head so that becomes your memory. Every piece of information out there on Google is your memory. So instead of looking up, you just think.
Elon Musk is no different than Tesla.
I know.
He was just born at a different time.
But what I'm wondering is if that actually is possible someday, maybe it's 1,000 years from now. Who knows how long it takes? I know some people are like saying 10 years, but I like to just be ridiculous and just say 1,000. That way people don't think I'm crazy, but I think it could happen in our lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
If that happens and that type of intelligence is available, what do you think? Here's what I wonder. I wonder if all these things as humans that we spend so much time fighting over and hurting each other over, if a lot of those things are going to be changed by having so much information, because people will be so educated, all information at their fingertips.
Well, education is power. Why do you think
But Elon
the
says
education
that
system in the United States, I tell you, the education that I got in high school is equivalent to the education probably of a sophomore in college or a junior.
I know.
We were taught information, and it was left up to us to analyze it.
Yeah.
To put it in our brains in an analytical way that made sense to us.
Do you think though, if because Elon Musk says this probably won't work on adults, because being where we're at now and then to get that much information put in your head, you might go crazy knowing that much, because there's people that fundamentally their whole life is based on the information they know. So if they know too much, it might fracture their actual understanding of their own existence.
See, I don't know
So he's
about
saying you're
that.
gonna have to be like a baby when you do it, to grow up with that much information.
I don't know about that.
And if
I
he's
think the
talking about
capability of the human brain, we're only using about.
I'm not talking about the human
8-9%.
brain at this point. I'm not talking about the
probably-
engine. I'm not talking about the computer. I'm talking about the consciousness of the being.
Yeah, emotionally what it would do to you.
Because I think that if you took it as an adult, they would
The animal part of you, what would happen?
they would need to give us a pill that numbs the lizard brain. You would have to actually numb some part of the human and then put that in. Then we're not human anymore, though. Then we are a computer, because they're numbing those emotional things so that we can withstand the amount of information we're getting.
We've already become hooked into a system.
Oh no, yeah, we're already. Well, that's
already
why
hooked in,
I forget
so.
who said this years ago, but I fell in love with the idea behind it. But that thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago, people would talk about telepathy. They'd be like, oh, there's people that can read people's minds.
yeah.
This is a superpower some people have. It's a very rare gift. We wanted this so bad. We heard stories about this for thousands of years, just like we're talking now and telling stories, that eventually a group of us got together and created cell phones. Now we have technological telepathy. I can talk to you no matter where you are on this planet, real time.
Okay, so
I can talk to you in your head. You can put an earbud in your head, and I can talk to you.
you have to
inside your head.
remember that all the knowledge, all the history that was written literally was destroyed over about a 500-year period in Europe.
Easily.
And,
Not to mention once we lost in the Library of Alexandria.
Religions changing, collapse of global empires. I mean, 3,000 years of knowledge was lost with the loss of the
Library of Alexandria.
Yeah.
Oh my God, when people say time machine, I'm like, I'd want to go there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let me go inside the Library of Alexandria.
Everybody goes, oh, the steam engine. Well, the Greeks invented a steam engine.
Yeah, they had a computer 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like a digital screen or anything, but it was
Archimedes.
the machine though you're talking about.
Yeah, it was. They don't know what it is.
Well, they think it was for like something with like astrological, for like measuring the stars.
Yeah,
maybe.
but it was pretty intricate.
But to me, it also looks like something that like maybe only the wealthy would have, but it looks like almost like a common tool because it wasn't decorated, or maybe the decoration got rotted off because it's so old. That's why when people are like, I mean, we'll go back to Tepe in Turkey. That's like 12,000 years old. Now they're digging deep and like, okay, this part of this site is 16,000 years old.
Remember we were
this
saying before about before the Great Flood, there may have been, humans want to minimize their adversaries. Now, Neanderthals were a bunch of hulking.
Yeah.
And you forget about I always say this wrong.
The Denisovans. That's how I've heard it pronounced. So
is the way it's pronounced.
So yeah, what we're talking about right now is let's just say 50,000 years ago, just to be safe. But like pre like the
Great
end of the last ice age and everything, and pre-Great Flood. It's called the Younger Dryas period. It was about 11,500 years ago or so. Look it up. But we're talking about different types of humanoids that lived on planet Earth. Like there was Neanderthals, there was Homo sapien, there was the Denisovans, which were these smaller people, but also
the
bipedal.
Aboriginal people of Australia. They have the most consistent history for almost 50,000 years.
50,000 fucking years. Yeah.
So if you look at the Aboriginal people but if you look at these people, just because they
look like everyone though. They almost look like everyone. I don't even know.
Oh, they do. They do. They have all this combination, of Neanderthal.
It's almost like, what if we started there, and then as we migrated to different parts, like other features became more dominant that would help us for our actual physical survival.
One thing about the human species, all our variations, is you go from one tribe, become another tribe, and hey. I've always nice looking people in this tribe. Why don't I tell you what? We're going to trade in this one for that one there. It'll be good for us all because that was part of the deal. That's why people.
They're like, wow, you guys are much bigger than us. Can we breed with you? Let's make some bigger people.
Well, yeah. Well, that was. You know what? They put it on a royal level. Think about kings and queens. Well, to make peace between us, I'm going to give you my daughter to your son. Yeah. And our bloodlines will be connected.
Connected, yeah.
Okay.
But back to Genghis Khan real quick. We've talked about this before, but I want to say on the podcast that one interesting thing about him is that he was known to have fiery hair and eyes like a cat. And what that meant was he had red hair and green eyes. Mm-hmm. And he was also fair-skinned as well. And that the red hair gene and the green eyes both come from the Central Asian steppes, which is really interesting that you see a lot of red-haired people nowadays. You see them in like Europe, Ireland and Europe, but the red hair and
Northern Europe, Ireland.
Those were herding. Those were people that herded cattle and stuff. They migrated there. The red hair and green eyes actually started in Central Asia.
I always call it those were the Celtic peoples.
The original ones.
They just controlled all of up to the.
But I feel like people don't picture Genghis Khan as this big, giant, red-haired, green-eyed man.
He's been always shown, again, most people have a limited vision of what the past is.
This is what history class should have been.
Absolutely.
Just heady terps and just talking about
the idea is discuss these ideas. What always killed me about history classes in schools, you were being given just this one version of this history line. And that's one of the reasons I had a tendency to kind of piss off some history teachers. I mean, my biggest one was always George Armstrong Custer, my best example. And this teacher going...
What did he do again? Can you tell me?
During the Civil War, he made himself a general. He was for the Civil War, he was a soldier.
Okay.
Right? but he also was a megalomaniac. He made himself a general. Okay? You can't do that without an act of Congress. Okay? So the guy said, hey, George, you're still a colonel.
You're still a colonel.
You may think you're a general, but you're not a general. You're a colonel. And he was trying to become president of the United States by killing, like, the Lakota, the indigenous groups that were, like, North, South Dakota, those areas there, okay?
Yeah.
And when they supposedly found gold in the Black Hills, you know, now we got to get that gold, even though we promised that we let them, the United States government promised, you know, that that's yours.
Yeah.
So Custer came in with a small group of guys. I think he only had total like 700 people.
Okay.
750. And he divided his force, which you never do. But he was so cocky and so overconfident. Well, they're just a bunch of savages. They had one of his groups attacked it. We always called it the first.
So he was trying to kill like a big group of Native Americans, like a whole tribe or like a whole.
Oh, yeah, because, you know, he was going to become president of the United States. We're going to end these Indian wars.
Oh my God.
Okay, so the Lakotas and that group was who they were trying to push out. They got pushed out up into Canada.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and anyways, the first Wounded Knee happens, right? And these are part of the 7th Cavalry, part of Custer's troops, and it's old men, women, and children. They literally go in and kill them all. Oh, those savages, blah, 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 right? Well, now you've got the congregation of all the remaining groups of people, the tribes, but these are all the warriors. And there's near 7,000 of them. And they had already, you know, talking and reading about the situation, what was going on. They realized they had lost the war against the white man.
Yeah.
But they knew the guy that was the focus of all their hatred and that
Was right over there.
was right over the hill.
Go get him.
With 300 guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, God.
Well, Robin Williams did a thing about
a
joke.
I don't want to gratify violence, but that's like.
Oh, no.
That's-
It's a payback sometimes. Robin Williams said the same thing about South Africa. As part of his joke was, read American history and read about Custer. He goes, then you might want to think about how you want to make South Africa. You could do it the Democratic Republic way where everybody has a vote, or you can stay with apartheid.
Didn't apartheid not only end in like the 90s or something?
Yes.
That's fucking crazy.
I remember going to the first demonstrations.
it's fucking crazy what we're at right now, too.
I
Everything's
remember
crazy.
when Nelson Mandela got put into jail. And I was 16. I was hitchhiking. I was in Cambridge, in Boston, and at Harvard Square, the demonstrations that went on, and, you know, against apartheid. I mean, it was, again, it was the end of the imperial age. And you had these people, well, now we're a country. Well, this is our country.
When was the Age of Enlightenment? Because that's like, was that during the imperial age?
The Age of Enlightenment.
Because that was George Washington.
When the Dark Ages kind of ended, and you had people like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci. That was the Age of Enlightenment.
Was Washington around during that? Because I was listening to this thing talking about like it was easier for him because he was living during the time of Enlightenment.
Well, that's when it ended. Then you had the Industrial Revolution.
So he was at like the edge of it. It was like the end of the Age of Enlightenment.
Part of the Age of Enlightenment was the rebirth, because part of the Age of Enlightenment was rediscovering all the histories that came before.
Yeah.
Because you had people like Galileo go and look through his telescope he made. He goes, hey, Jupiter's got moons, and we're not the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Copernicus. I mean, you know.
That's a good way to get killed, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what they said.
Canceled.
That's what they said
That's
to
getting
Galileo.
canceled in the 1700s.
Okay, come over to the church here. You're a heretic, and then you must be talking to the devil. You know,
That's how they
makes,
cancel you back
you
in the
know,
day.
again, that's that. We have to keep everything the same.
Yeah.
You know, that way we protect our power. That's what you do with kings, queens, duchies, and that. You give all these people, you know, a position and you give them a little power, and they give a little power to this small group to control this group.
Yeah.
You know, so no one will do anything because they want to protect their power.
Well, going back to that thing we were talking about, because we're all over the place, but I wanted to talk about it. But like, we're like there was like all these different like types of humanoids living on this planet, and I think all of them were super intelligent.
Oh, absolutely.
That's why I'm like, there's certain like ancient, monuments or ancient like buildings or megalithic structures
or tools
or there's things they find, and they're like, they keep saying, well, we only have record of Homo sapiens being here this long, and then there's another group that's like aliens. But why couldn't there have been different humanoids? Why couldn't Denisovans been the dominant race for 50,000 years? Why couldn't the Neanderthals been the dominant race for 100,000 years and had all this technology?
What if
like there could have been super huge wars like Lord of the Rings shit, like elves and goblins fighting, but different types of humanoids.
If you take in Hinduism, okay, their mythology of their ships, of their battles in the sky.
The Vimanas, right?
Yes.
Those ships.
Okay, you take that, and you also take, this comes from our technology today. They talk about, they're talking about going to Mars, colonizing Mars. But the facts, and they've even made movies about this.
Tons of them.
A human being living on Mars, evolutionary changes to that person, to those humans.
Oh, they'd get taller, skinnier.
Yeah. You have less gravity. All these things are a physiological fact. We are the way we are because we are on this particular planet.
Yeah.
Back in the age of insects,
yeah,
okay, it was all swamps. The size of a dragonfly is equal to the oxygen content in the atmosphere.
Yep.
So if
more
you
oxygen, bigger bugs.
Yeah. So back in that age, where you had that, 10-foot long centipedes that were, going around.
Fuck that.
You had dragonflies with 3-foot wingspans.
Yeah.
And it was all a swamp.
Yeah.
That's where all the oil supposedly came from.
But I'm just saying, if like there like was all these different humanoids we're finding now, and like these were and could have been all like very intelligent beings and stuff, and we hear like different stories passed down from, different cultures and stuff.
Egypt's probably the best one.
I know, but what if some of the stories that we even have nowadays of like weird things like dragons and shit were actually just passed down from Denisovan culture or Neanderthal culture from their shit because they were around longer.
Dragons were very important to the Chinese, to the Persians.
Well, I think they were finding dinosaur skeletons, right? And they were like, well, these were from a
time.
That
was one thing. That's how they... In our time, they've tried to
justify their stories,
explain that
stories of dragons and stuff.
But it's also a fact that we had the megafauna. Had
pre the end of the last ice age. There could have been way bigger shit.
Yeah, and again, I said this to you before. Okay, 68 million years ago, there were dinosaurs every place.
Yeah.
So if we look at our world today, there's mammals every place. Well, there's this one intelligent one that builds cities and everything else. Gee, I wonder if 68 million years or whatever million years ago it was, that when the dinosaurs went, maybe there was an intelligent reptilian race.
Absolutely. If the dinosaurs were around for somewhat 500 million years, because the dinosaurs went through multiple super extinction events. And they were the
dominant. And they are still not extinct. That's the whole thing.
And reptiles, that's why I'm like, millions of years ago, the dominant intelligent race could have been a more reptile-based race. Like, we don't know. Like, that's why everyone wants to say aliens and shit. I'm like, I think that this planet has been around long enough. We see how things work. Like,
what if we sent people out and that before this last ice age destruction of this planet, we were advanced enough and going to Hindu legend about the wars and battles in the sky with the ships. Let's say we had spread out out of our solar system.
And Earth is just a colony. It's just one colony.
Or the place where we came from.
Okay.
But we sent people out. Well, all of a sudden, there was some sort of war or something happened. Something happened and wiped out the planet. Mm-hmm. Well, now these colonies that were out there, they're coming back going, what the fuck happened
What
here?
happened to our planet?
Everyone's
gone.
So, everything's gone. So they're sitting back going, okay, what happened here?
Yeah.
What happened here? I mean, again, it's all conjecture.
Yeah.
But it's taking...
But I just think, like...
You take bits of history, and of course you can make history say whatever you want.
Yeah.
But again, you look at myths. If there's a commonality between myths that are from Central America and Central Asia.
Yeah.
Okay, you're on the different sides of the planets, and you're saying the same fucking
shit.
thing.
You're saying the same fucking thing.
It's just a coincidence. Don't worry about
it's
it.
not.
Don't worry.
And the way people built, that's why you look at, like, honestly, the biggest thing that's proved is since the 90s, and they've really been getting into Göbekli Tepe, that's been the big one that's proven that, holy shit.
It's throwing everything off.
Things are way older than we thought. Yes, there can be super monuments and huge buildings from 10,000 plus years ago. And you know, the people that want to argue are like, well, where's all the pottery, or where's all the this? And like, anything from 10,000 years ago won't be here unless it's fucking stone.
There's a
like,
place,
look, go down to like any of your buildings in your local city and watch them falling apart right now.
Back in the 70s.
And they're like 80, and they're not even 80 years old.
Well, they know the Amazon was completely settled. They had fish farms, everything else. Okay?
Oh, they say the Amazon is an artificial rainforest.
Yes.
Like, that's
okay. And the only reason it died off is there was a couple of Portuguese sailors that had smallpox or measles.
And wiped
came
everybody
ashore,
out.
Had a cold one. Hey, how's it going? You know,
Killed everybody.
Gone. You know.
Yeah, it's
but
crazy.
It
happened fast,
in the
too.
western part of Brazil, they have found structures that aren't based on indigenous people and that.
Yeah.
These structures are very strange.
Yeah.
Very, very strange. And again, it was one of those things I read about in the late 70s. You never heard about it ever again.
Well, they're finding like Aboriginal DNA in South America. They're finding Incan stuff that made it to Easter Island because they believe the Incans were sailing around and giving away technology, essentially what the Chinese did.
You go up to northern North America,
Yeah.
like across the Great Lakes and
Yep.
that, and the peoples of the northern hemisphere, your what we call Vikings and that, their DNA is starting to show up in
Weird places.
in Canada.
Aren't we
inland.
related to some specific Viking person?
I'll say see if I say the name. Well, again, remember this is your grandfather who was an antique dealer.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we don't. Who knows who anyone's really fucking
Well,
related to,
we
honestly.
know that the first incursions into Scotland by the Vikings was around 900 AD, let's say.
Yeah.
Right? And at that time, the Picts had been subdued, so they're all hanging out at the abbeys, giving all their gold and everything to guys in the abbey for the church.
Yep.
And everybody's walking around going Rama, Rama, Rama and praying.
Yep.
And now, it strictly from a male point of view of being looking at
Now
your
be
pet-
careful. A male point of view is no one wants a male point of view
What
nowadays.
group do you want to be with? You know, do you want to be with the group that's going to get their ass kicked, or the group that they got?
Sounds
the
like
cool
something a jock
shit?
would say.
Exactly.
You want to be the cool guy with the nerds, babe.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You'd much rather be with the guys in the long ship, I mean, what the name, I may get the pronunciation of his name wrong, but he was called Orkloff the Black.
Okay.
But it's something the Black.
Yeah.
And they called him the ultimate Viking.
Nice.
This guy made
sounds like-
berserkers look like lightweights, okay?
Perfect.
I don't need a whole ship of guys. I'm taking the town by myself.
Well, he gives all of us 5'11" fat boys hope that we can be powerful, I guess.
Well,
That's
no,
him,
you got to
man.
remember the average height of people.
Oh, like 5'5", right? Man,
Yeah,
like
and
average foot.
200 years ago, it was
People were
about
smaller,
it.
but that's just because people weren't. There wasn't
Well,
enough
at the
nutrition.
turn of the 20th century from the 19th century, I think men were just upper 50s, women were upper 40s.
Yeah.
Because there was, when it came to healthcare, women were like, there was healthcare for men.
Isn't that crazy? But
Well, no,
I
again,
think,
it was an
think,
imperial colonial
But I don't
society.
think our planet was always like that. I think the Egyptians, actually, I think there might have been a time we were more of a matriarchy, because this is a patriarchy right now, right? You would say this is a male-dominated society. As much as we say, oh, we're equal to this and that, but
Yeah, but
It's
that's
not-
again,
This is a slippery slope.
Well, no, it's because the Romans were that way also.
Yeah.
That's why they adulterated. You know, you had Jesus and 12 apostles.
Yeah.
Now, just for anthropological, statements, men in Judea and that area, by 30 they were married.
Yeah.
It was just what happened.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's what it is.
And to sit there and when you Romanized Christianity, you couldn't have somebody like Mary Magdalene be like, hey, man, that's like Jesus' wife.
Yeah.
Oh, no. She was a prostitute. And then, I said to that one girl.
Well, everything's been changed over the years. Who knows what the original stories were?
Oh, yeah, that's why you just go by
Yeah.
Let's keep it simple here.
That's why I organized religion. I just can't. Even though I grew up in Catholic school.
I did that for a reason. Though.
Yeah,
there was a reason.
It was the weirdest thing though, because you would make me go to church. I got confirmed as a Catholic. You didn't go to church. You didn't do none of it.
I went to church with you.
No.
Yes, I did.
No.
Yes, I did.
But
I didn't go to your classes.
You're not.
with you.
We're not.
I had to do all that
okay,
shit.
but I don't see us as religious people. I see us as spiritual people.
Oh yeah, well that was the whole point.
I like stuff from all different religions.
Well, because again, the first thing people have to remember is the way I was brought up. And
this is what people have to remember, right?
Yeah, well,
I'm just messing with you.
My generation started questioning all that.
Yeah.
Going, well, yeah,
the
right.
Psychedelics help.
That's all well and good, but you're kind of, everything's like, say, it was a patriarch.
Yeah.
And that was left over from the imperial age, the king.
Yeah, I wonder because we were talking about. Let's go way back to where we were for a second because I love talking about space stuff with you. It's so fun. But we're talking about sending people out and then them coming back because you know how I think Einstein's the one that discovered this, but I don't know how. I don't know how to do this shit.
About
but he was talking
bands?
about space time, where it's like if you travel at a certain speed, a certain way, then come right back. Like basically, it'll be 30 years for you, but on Earth maybe 100,000 years or 30,000 years has gone by, and it's based on just like space time how it works because you're traveling.
He always said that space was like this flat grid.
Well, yeah,
In fact,
I wish I had a board here.
The Simpsons. The Simpsons did one.
Yeah,
they did it, right?
But the Simpsons did everything. We all know this.
Simpsons did it.
But I wonder if there was different times on Earth where there was people or different humanoids or races with high technology. If they sent something out and it comes back eventually, it's like we're gonna be like, oh, it's from an alien race. But what if we're getting something that's just from a different period on Earth that finally came back? Because it took 100,000 years for it to fucking come back because it's from that time.
If that has happened, maybe it already did happen.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe they always talk about Roswell.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe what came back was something another high level human made. We sent out and came back. And if it was smaller, then it was probably a Denisovan ship because they were little people.
They say that, but they
weren't little, but they weren't as big.
They're not like the group they found in Borneo in the caves.
Yeah, those are even smaller. Those are
small.
like pygmy. They're under 2 foot. They're
but what they had was tools and everything.
But what they're starting to discover is there might be hundreds of different humanoid species that are not.
Look at cats.
Exactly.
Look at a cat.
Yeah, and like you were saying, look at dinosaurs. Or lizards, all this stuff. I think it's just we're living in a time where I think Graham Hancock. You've probably listened to a bunch of his shit before, but he always talks about us being a species with amnesia.
Oh yeah.
I just don't think that.
I
think we feel like we know everything, but I don't think we know everything.
I feel that we are kept in the dark for our own good.
Yeah.
This
is where everyone wants the podcast to go.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that the powers to be, that would disrupt the whole basis of power on the planet, from religion to governments to my group's better than your group.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden you had something come back and some folks come out and go, wow, This place really got fucked
Yeah,
up. What happened?
we've been gone for 30 years.
What did you do?
But on Earth, it's been maybe like 20,000 or something.
Yeah.
And like we thought we'd come back and you'd have more technology and we'd be able to get farther. Now this shit's fucked up because that's
you got to rebuild everything.
That's
what the hell
one
is
thing
that?
they talk about with actually why they'd ever want to find out how to travel like at that speed and come back is so that we could send groups of people to get further into the future to actually gain more technology to help us.
See,
like,
I had this other thought about the humans of today, that we were just a worker bees.
Absolutely. Well, that's at like Anunnaki people talk about that we were just gold miners.
Well, you know that there was a movie, Gods of Egypt?
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah, but that's basically what humans were. We were the worker bees.
Yeah.
You know, and then you had this other group of
Then
humans.
all the people with technology left, and we've been trying to put the pieces back together ever since.
Exactly.
And we all have like.
I'm the pharaoh. And that's how that movie ended. You're the first pharaoh. You're the kind of caretaker of this.
Yeah.
You know, but again,
I love that whole that one fact that like Cleopatra is closer to the invention of the iPhone than she is the pyramids being built.
I know, isn't that weird?
Isn't that weird? So she's closer to us inventing the iPhone than the fucking pyramids being
well,
built. That's how old the pyramids are.
Well,
and she was a pharaoh.
Really,
pharaoh.
kind of, it irritates me that people go, oh, you know, look at this technology. Well, if we did this in 100 years, well, like here's a perspective.
What do you think Egypt did in 3,000?
Yeah, I mean, you know, exactly.
Like, you're seeing the shell of a high technological civilization. You're seeing the bones. You're not even seeing the shell.
Exactly.
The shell's been blown away.
I mean, everything was painted.
Everything's gone.
Yeah,
like, the whole pyramid was. The pyramids were covered not only in limestone, but the limestone was carved and etched with who knows what.
A lot of that stuff, believe it or not, a lot of that stone covering and stuff.
It's all in Cairo now. They use it to build all the buildings in Cairo.
And Islam
ripped it apart.
They tore it all down because they were, you know, infidels and that.
Yeah.
Again, it was a religion-based.
What I always wonder too, though, is like you look at a lot of the hieroglyphs and they say, oh, the hieroglyphs don't have anything that talks about who specifically built this or that, as far as the Sphinx or the main pyramids. Like, I wonder, like, did a lot of people maybe just move into Egypt over time and carve their stories into the walls? Maybe those walls were smooth.
Remember that the Sahara went from being a desert to being like the Great Plains.
Yeah.
And it shifted back and forth. And so we went from a very wet period, which is carved in the stone in the middle of the Sahara, these depressions, these mountain ranges that are there. Okay, so there are carvings that show animals and all this. And as the desert dries, what do humans do? They go to the water source. Yeah. As the water source starts shrinking
or moving, just because
they have no choice. They either had to go west to the Atlantic or east to the Nile or north of the Mediterranean. Yeah. Well, the Nile goes all the way through Africa. Yep. So they would migrate, then come up that river. You know, it was the way things were. You know. Yeah. I just again, my idea of history is that you talk about all different ideas. You can't. There's not definites in history. Yes, we know what year the Declaration of Independence. We have an idea.
I don't know. We have the CIA, or who is it? The CIA who put it out that they found that yes, we do have like ships that are not made on this earth.
I'm not. I've caught that a couple of times in the last month since I've been here, and
I believe in aliens. I just think that I think we don't give our planet enough credit for what's happened on it. I think that we've grown to super high levels and crashed even 500 million years ago, there was a volcano that went off that was so big, there was 1,000-foot deep lava flow that covered a huge part of our planet. Up in Siberia, yeah. And that fucked our planet way more than any meteor or comet impact ever could.
I think it was Tambora.
Tambora, yep.
That was 70,000 years ago.
That brought humans down to about maybe between 6,000 to 10,000, they said.
I've heard numbers down to 3,000. But again, that's just,
what the fuck do we know? Fuck do we know? We
there
weren't
wasn't
there.
many left. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was that the Homo sapiens at least have almost gone extinct a few times. And they know that like Neanderthal and like I guess it's Neanderthal, not Neanderthal, but
Yeah.
So I don't know how to fuck say anything. We say milk sometimes.
Milk.
Milk, yeah. But yeah,
We say it the right way.
but yeah, I don't know. I forget where I was right there. I just got lost for a second.
That's what happens when you get old.
Yeah.
The brain goes, everything goes right to shit. You know? At least that's what I was told. You
No,
know?
but I don't know. I guess my point is that like I feel like there's a lot of like species of humanoids that lived on this planet that are probably way before even Homo sapien that were high intelligent.
I think there are other animals. I think there's animals today that are highly intelligent that, you know, just because we can make things,
yeah,
maybe these animals evolved to the point where we don't need to make anything anymore because we're, you know, and I don't think they're terrestrial based. I think they're
but
they're
I wonder like what their perspective is though as like animals, because like we might just see them as like a fucking dolphin swimming around and be like, oh, it's as smart as a 3-year-old human, but maybe inside that dolphin's head it's living in a totally different dimensional plane, and the swimming it's doing is just keeping that suit that sustains that brain of that consciousness that's living in a 4th dimension. We don't even fucking know.
That's the problem.
Like,
that's my problem personally. I have with zoos and things of that
oh,
sort.
I know. We support ours and we like pay for things just to like make sure that it stays open. Animals are getting fed and stuff because a lot of these animals are missing limbs and they're rescue animals. But I can barely go to the primate area because when I see the primates in there and I look at them, I'm like, I look at them, I'm like, whoa, dude, like you are like a different type of humanoid. Like we don't speak
orangutans
Yeah,
really
like,
bother me when I see them in cages
they
because
definitely
they are
seem
like
super smart.
there's something. You look like you could talk to them and get a logical response.
Yeah.
And they just look like they're in prison.
I think it's because I grew up watching The Jungle Book too. You know,
course.
Disney really fucks you up.
Disney fucks you up. Mickey Mouse, it's all your fault.
I'm telling you, having a kid kind of messed me up too now. Like I've said on my podcast a bunch of times, but like I don't mean to see it, but like in my feed, I'll just see like animals eating each other and shit, and it's just like I'm just like, oh, I don't even want to see it, and it just because the whole world is so vicious and real, and that's why as humans it seems like we're trying to control all of these things and make everything safe and nerfed, and it's like I don't know if this planet, I don't know if this realm can be tamed. I don't know if it's safe.
Nah,
I
Earth.
think this is a training ground.
Okay, when you come to Earth, what's the most corrosive thing on
Oxygen.
Oxygen.
Fucking,
so as
yeah.
soon as and we breathe it.
Yeah.
We need it to live. But as soon as you're born, you're fighting to stay alive. You know? And you win the battle up until, well, supposedly with humans today, it's like around 25 or so. That's it. That's you've grown.
Yeah, your frontal cortex
and then
is finished
you have
developing.
you have about a 10-year period where everything's kind of normal.
And then
you
your cells start
plateau.
breaking down.
Yep, but then it's, you know.
Well, they're working on curing that. Like because they say that aging
yeah.
is a disease. It's not like a natural
Well, yeah,
thing.
your system, this biomechanical system that we have, is starting to break down. The cells can only regenerate so much. It takes. Go sit down, big friend. It's for 7 years your body swaps out.
Yeah.
You know, every 7 years. And, you know, you can only do something so many times.
I know. It's
It's
just and this is like this podcast right here. We've gone all over the place, but for me, this is like what I realized. There's like so many things going on, and it's like hard for me to focus on one thing. But all the things happening almost keep me sane because I don't get hung up on one shitty thing. Bane, you gotta really tighten up, bro. Oh boy, he needs love right now. But yeah, it's just crazy. I love talking about stuff like this with you. It's super fun. It's really
well,
cool
this is, you know, again, everybody should be doing this. Everybody should be talking to one another instead of yelling at one another. Everybody has a point of view. And when you feel that you know everything and you got it all together, then you really got to step back and go, okay, I really don't have it all
That's
together.
why I feel like it's almost like a game you can never beat, like with history and knowledge and everything. But it's almost like a double-edged sword because the more history and knowledge you have, sometimes it makes you a little bit stressed out because you feel like you can see the wheels turning with what's going on in current modern day, and you're like, why doesn't anyone else see it? We need to.
I find it insulting how the powers to be in this world are minimize the common man. What they're not capable of. We know what's best for you. Yeah, just follow us. And we'll tell you what to do. I just think that everybody, it's like a big puzzle. Everybody has something that's important to this puzzle. Nobody's unimportant.
That's actually how I look at every human, and for the most part, it's obviously there's some shitty ones out there, but
of course,
but I feel
Adolf wasn't a good guy.
I feel like we're all pieces of this big puzzle. It's like we all started as one thing, and then we were shattered as our planet has been shattered millions of times over its lifetime.
Well, that's where you go Old Testament. Again, I can only relate to...
We get scattered across the planet.
Well, that was the Tower of Babel,
yeah.
Right? That whole story.
What?
Well,
yeah.
Again, I could see there's some sort of war and just wiped out the planet, and there were little
I had
groups
a question
left.
for you, Dad. I didn't know what this word means. When you hear people refer to something as Orwellian... I dropped out of high school, so I don't really...
Remember George Orwell's
I do.
1984.
I know all that, but I hear a lot of people, Luna and Bane. I hear a lot of people using it nowadays, and I'm like, are they using it right, or is that?
Well, they're using it to try. It's like going fuck you.
Yeah, it's like describe the end of the world. This is the end. So it's like
I don't know. It's the end of the world, but it's a derogatory remark because George Orwell's 1984 is what. You got to take this guy when he was writing this book, okay? And it's like Atlas Shrugged, okay?
Yeah.
All right? He was writing about the future. The future is 1984. And everybody is under a totalitarian system.
Okay.
Okay? And when somebody goes, "Oh, that's Orwellian," it's like
they're referring to that. They're like, that's where we're going because of you. It's your fault that we're gonna live in this shithole.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. That's all I just want to understand. I guess I kind of got it. Then I just wanted to talk to my elder, figure it out a little bit more.
My elder, jeez, that's nice.
Do you know who the son of Sam is?
Yeah.
He's got he's like a pastor now, and he's got his own church and
I'm
following.
sorry. It's
so weird.
It's like Charles Manson.
No, it's even weirder. It's even weirder because he's not even calling what he did as evil. He's like, oh, my selfish acts. It's like, dude, you killed so many people.
He just walked up to a car and you just shot him in the face.
Yeah, and especially people that were being...
God told me to do it.
No, not God.
I know.
His neighbor's dog told him to do it.
Yeah, well, okay.
And then now he has this whole church
his
thing.
Neighbor's dog. It's one of the reasons I wanted to be a lawyer. I would love to have that as a court case. Your Honor, it wasn't his fault. Fido next door is the evil genius behind this.
He really needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, take care of that dog.
This poor man was manipulated by that dog.
That dog. Really, those are great excuses.
But when he talks about what he does, he just says it's his selfish act. He doesn't talk. I'm like, dude, that's pure evil. That's not being
a selfish.
When I'm being selfish, it's like me getting a cheeseburger sneakily and not telling my wife. Being like, I'm gonna get a cheeseburger real quick.
Yeah, no.
He's
not
justifying. It's not killing a bunch of people.
Sociopaths. That's a sign of what a sociopath is.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez,
and people are like, oh, he's healed through the power of God. I'm like, this is my problem with organized religion.
It's again. That's the one thing. Like when the Egyptians died, the scales.
What's that thing you always used to say to me? I don't know. Someone famous said, but you always used to say religion is the opiate of the masses.
Yeah, well, Karl Marx said that.
Okay.
Karl Marx said that when he wrote the Communist Manifesto.
But you don't believe everything that every person says. You just have interest in a lot of.
You got to understand when Karl Marx was writing the Communist Manifesto.
Doesn't he have a bad rap?
Again, he was trying to make a utopian idea.
Yeah.
And
it only works for maybe 200 people.
Thomas Mann wrote the same thing about utopia.
Are we related to him?
He's from the British Isles.
Okay.
Our family's been kicked all over the place. God knows.
We're like the garbage mans.
Yeah. I mean, there was 9 brothers that got kicked out of Canada in 1840.
Yeah.
We must have really fucked up.
So
no one gets kicked out of Canada.
So we were Canadians first?
That's where he first came.
And then we got kicked out of Canada.
Most of our relatives from Clan Gun ended up in New Zealand with the clearances of all the clans.
Wow.
But the Mann family, of course,
most of our families in New Zealand.
We decided to go to a place that was instead of a nice tropical paradise. Granted, it was pretty shitty in 1800.
Yeah, it wasn't much there. It was rough.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of people that
Yeah.
that didn't particularly want you there.
Yeah.
And Australia was a prison colony for the British.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. But we decided to go to Canada.
Yeah.
And we didn't. We only lasted about 40 years or so there.
And they kicked us out.
Yeah. And I've always tried to find this, but there's a story in upstate New York that in 1839, a group of upstate New Yorkers invaded the North Shore of the St. Lawrence. I've heard stories, I've read fables, I guess the best way to put it, but I can't find anything that definitely says that happened. But I can picture a bunch of guys, it's 1839, you're sitting on the Tug Hill Plateau, you got 18 feet of snow around your house, you got your little 12 by 12 shack with your home brew.
Yeah.
So if you were spending 6 months sucking in fumes from the wood you're burning and drinking home brew,
Yeah.
you come up with an idea. Let's invade Canada. Right? Unbeknownst to the state or the federal government.
Oh, my God.
It would be just like a bunch of guys on Saturday. It was like what the Vikings did.
Yeah.
You know, they had a long ship with 40 guys in it, and hey, unsuspecting village. Let's raid, pillage, and burn.
That's the one
Saturday
thing that's
night.
crazy about history. Like, if like when people are like, oh, if you had like one wish or you could like have anything in the world, like, I think mine would be is I'd like to have like a solid. I don't need to know everybody that got killed and every horrible act
Just
happened.
be a fly in the wall.
Can I just see like for the last like let me see all of this history. I want to know everything that really was going on. I want because I think we don't even know about the greatest city that's ever existed. I don't think we've ever even. I don't think we know.
I would come to Central America.
Oh, I think
I would come to Central America around 1000 BC.
Yeah, because I think that they were even bigger than Egypt. I think they had some.
They think the Mayans started here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In Utah, they think.
Yeah,
like,
in Utah or all the way up to here.
Yeah.
Okay? And again, it makes sense.
They think that was their like golden place, but they were there pre-end of the Ice Age, and then the Great Flood that they think that happened when the ice sheet started melting and flooded over North America. I think that's probably what pushed most civilizations out of the United States, because I think the United States used to be like super tight. Like I think there used to be huge pyramids here. I mean,
there was very little here except for the mound builders all along the Mississippi, and when you come down to Florida, we'll go over to the mounds there, and they know those are 11,000 years old.
Yeah.
Okay?
They might have been built.
11,000
They might have been
BC,
built right after the flood to like remind people to be part of the story. Who knows?
Well, and this group of people that are by Crystal River, they were all part of a trading system that went all the way up to Central New York.
Yeah.
I mean, they found Iroquois pottery there. So these systems were all set up, just like the Amazon was. No, not right now.
Okay.
I'll do it later.
I just think it's like really like interesting, like that this continent like lost 70% of its megafauna like all at once, and they want to say that it's from like overhunting, but I think that's an insult to the indigenous people who took care of this and like lived here for tens of thousands of years.
Yeah, that's kind of a lame thing.
Yeah, because they all talk about a great flood.
All we have to do is look at California today. Now, what's happening in California? It's burning to the fucking ground.
Yeah.
Well, the indigenous people that were there, they knew they were great caretakers of the land.
Yeah.
They would come and hunt there.
Yeah.
And they knew when they left, they would always set fires to burn the underbrush.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want that water being sucked up by all the underbrush that's just going to dry out and burn. Because in climates, arid climates, lots of creosote and that in the plants. So as they would leave an area, they'd burn it. And the underbrush would just flash through because the trees would be used to it. Yep. And plus there's, I forget the name of the pine tree here, that it has to have a fire for it to release the seeds from its cones.
Wow.
A fire has to go through.
That's how on top of these people were taking care of the land.
Yeah, they were great stewards of the land.
That's why in South America they call the Amazon, it might have been an artificial rainforest, because they're finding that black gold, that man-made mud. They're finding layers of it everywhere. They're like, oh my gosh, like everywhere where everything's growing, it was basically
look what the Aztecs did.
Well, once all the people died, when the smallpox came through and wiped everyone out, all the nutrients were still in the soil, so everything just grew. Oh yeah. So basically, you look at the Amazon, it's like an overgrown super garden that fed millions of people, because they now think there was millions of people. It was like a super
Why
metropolis.
would there only be 100,000 people in an area that big, that rich, that diverse?
No, I mean just what they're
but
finding.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but the LiDAR now, you know about.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
always talk about LiDAR.
Yeah.
The shit they're finding in the rainforest. They're finding cities.
Well,
every
they're
day.
finding so much. They restrict. One little phrase I caught in one archaeology magazine was the way they found this one fortress in the lowlands. I guess you would call the lowland Mayans in Guatemala and that.
Yeah.
We had left it on, and as we were going down the area we weren't supposed to look at, we found a whole fortress built in the side of the hill and the roads running to and from it.
Yeah, I mean
Tikal, they thought, oh, we know how big it is, and they were
so wrong.
only off by about 54,000 buildings.
Yeah, they were so
right?
off.
They figured there was 6,000 buildings. No, there was
it's
near
huge.
60,000 buildings.
Huge.
It's like, well, I told you.
And I feel like this is all lost history because I feel like it was all stolen and melted down because I think a lot of this shit, do you think a lot of it was maybe written on gold or in gold? Or?
Oh no. The Mayans and the Aztecs, they call them codexes.
Yeah.
They have Aztec ones.
Did they roll on clay, right? And
No, they were books. They were open
books,
up.
okay.
Oh, yeah. And of course, all their glyphs and everything, especially the Mayans, they're cracking those glyphs.
Yeah.
And it's the Mayans, and actually the Mayans are the precursor.
I'm more interested in the Olmecs.
Yes.
I want to know more about.
They're the ones that made those.
And that's
huge
what we call
heads.
them. And Olmec just means the rubber people because they were the people that took care of the rubber trees. They were the mother civilization to
And
all
the
these.
stones, they put the big round
Those fucking
stones,
heads, those giant heads.
giant heads. But see, what
And the
happened in
spheres, yeah,
colonization,
everywhere.
they moved them all.
They moved them all, so we don't
But
know what
they
they
were
mean
all
anymore.
in a particular place, all of these, and they don't know where they were.
No.
And there was a reason.
Yeah, there was.
There was
a
it
reason.
was either for.
And that happened. Us fucking that up happened in the last 400 or 500 years.
No, it happened
Right?
less than that. It
Less than
happened.
that.
Well, you got to understand.
So that's why. But my point is, when people talk about
the Spanish came here in 1492. Okay.
yeah,
Yes, Christopher Columbus was on those ships and stuff, but it was the Spanish.
we don't hang out with him though.
more.
He was on that other ship.
That's right. Those poor bastards. I gotta tell you something. They stuck them on these little wooden ships.
Yeah.
And you see, these were supposedly good ships.
Yeah.
And that was at the same time as the Chinese treasure fleet.
Oh,
and the
they didn't
Chinese
stand a chance.
small ship
Yeah.
made that look like a dinghy.
A dinghy,
They're
yeah.
digging
No,
to
these
their
ships are
smallest ones.
massive.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look at, we found the new world. Yeah, we did that 100 years ago.
I just think this is why people are like, oh, well, why don't we find the technology? Why don't we find this? I'm like, look at how much has been fucked up in the last few hundred years. Like, what do you think will happen in 10,000 or 12,000?
I mean,
Or,
all you gotta do is look at Mount St. Helen went off.
like the amount of land, the amount of land we lost about 11,000, 12,000 years ago was the size of they say mainland Asia.
Oh yeah. All you
Like,
gotta do is again take
that's
out
how
your
much
cell
land-
phones.
and most
you
humans
look
live
at
on the shore.
Google Maps, and you bring it in close. Florida's probably the best way to
Yeah,
see
you can
it.
see the outline of the old
You
shoreline.
can see the old shoreline.
Yep.
I mean, it's
and
there.
they say that like we do now, humans live by by the edge of the shore. So if that's where all civilization was,
We are
it's underwater.
water-oriented people. That's
Yeah.
why the idea.
We're water monkeys. That's what we
Yeah.
are.
I
That's why we don't
really
have any
think-
hair.
Again.
Just kidding.
No.
I think it's because
I don't.
I think it's because we're the aliens. I think if there's any aliens, we are the aliens. We've just been bouncing back and forth. Earth's a colony. It's just we've forgotten our history.
Well,
But we're way
you
we're
can
way out in
say
the
that
sticks.
too, because that one thing I said about oxygen.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay, we
humans
were
would look
genetically
different in different
tweaked.
places.
Maybe we were the worker bees here to come and terraform this place.
Yeah.
And if I said, "Man, you're really screwing it up," let's just
The
blast
gravity
it
and the oxygen here, we're shorter, we're thicker, we're
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, that's because they say Earth is kind of out in the sticks when it comes to being
on the edge of the Milky Way.
way
I
on
mean,
the edge.
Yeah.
Whereas
we're like Cato as opposed to New York City.
Yeah, so that's actually what they say, astronomers and stuff. So they're like, maybe we are a little colony, but we're just so far away from everything, and no one comes here anymore because it's art. Maybe during the time of all the Egyptian gods and all that shit was the time when the really wealthy were coming from the center of the Milky Way out to the boonies and hanging out on Earth.
The story
Who
of
knows?
Superman
Oh, tell me about it.
The story of Superman, how they did it with this new Superman, the new version, and the Kryptonians, they went everywhere around the planet, through galaxies and colonized, and all of a sudden they did what China did.
They just closed up.
They closed up.
We're done. We got too big too quick.
They abandoned all these colonies.
And then over time, people forget and they lose their history. They lose technology. All the people that knew how to build the ships have passed and have left. They're gone. The technology.
Because you had people fighting for power.
And no one knows how to turn the ships on anymore. So we rip them apart just like we ripped apart the pyramids to build Cairo. And then over time, wars happen and monuments get trampled and destroyed and want to erase history. And then we
cities
forget.
Get built upon
so
cities
why
upon
couldn't Earth
cities.
be a lost colony of some greater space civilization? And we are the aliens and all the
or
animals.
If we were again, C.S. Lewis wrote the books, out of the Silent Planet, The Hidden Terror, and he wrote 3 stories, and Out of the Silent Planet is Mars. The Hidden Terror is Earth. I can't remember the name of the other one. The other one is Venus.
Yeah. There's
and it describes each planet.
Well, Tesla always thought it was from Venus.
Mars was a very old planet, and the beings there were kind of like shadows of what they were. Earth, and again, C.S. Lewis, he wrote Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
That. He brings in Merlin and the Celtic stories into Earth. But the way he describes Venus is a young planet. And there's no land as of yet, but there's these massive floating islands.
Yeah.
And that's where all the life is. And what they're looking for is the one piece of land.
Yeah.
The one peak pushing out of the water,
That's so cool.
And that whole story there.
Yeah.
There was a movie made by Kevin Costner called
Waterworld.
Waterworld.
Yeah.
It's literally a ripoff of that story.
Yeah, but his gills are hella dope.
Yeah. They didn't have Skidoo's back.
Yeah, Tesla, he believed that his genetics and his his family and everything originally came from Venus. Like he believed he was a Venisovan, he called himself. But he also married a pigeon. And he was pretty wild kid.
Bestiality is not cool.
Yeah, he was a wild kid. But I just always talk about, but I think it's so cool that he was in New York City, but he came to Colorado Springs, where we are right now, to build his main tower because the amount of I think kinetic energy that's right here because there's major ley lines that cross in this area.
See, and they go geniuses' brains. There's these neural pathways.
I'm just trying to build those heady water spinners, and I think if I'm on the right ley lines, I'll get it.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah, I'll keep trying, Dad. I'll try and impress you.
Try and try again. Never give up. Never die.
I'll spin water good enough someday.
I'll spin water.
But yeah, no, I don't know, Tesla. He's so interesting though. We got to go to that Tesla museum down here. Check it out.
The one in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
I know. Well, we're going to be splitting next week. So.
I know. Well, we got to see if shit's even open, man, because
it's not going to be open now. That's why we have to, we have a plan.
We got to redo this basement so you guys can come stay with us more.
That's why I know. Mom's already told me. I just got to go down with Cass.
Yeah, we'll do it here soon.
Yeah, I'm going to do it before I go so I can get everything in my mind so I can tell you what to do.
But you guys got to come out here again so we can do more of these podcasts because they're super fun.
Oh, yeah, I will.
Yeah, that way next time you can bring out some shit and we can really talk about the 60s.
Oh, no, I'll bring out the newspaper, one of the newspapers.
We'll talk about crazy civil rights in the 60s and things happening. And
what's crazy
living on communes. And
oh, yeah. That's a whole nother thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Next episode.
Woodchuck sucks to eat with cow corn.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Woodchuck with cow corn.
Yeah, really chunky.
Well, on that, we will end it there. Thank you again, Dad, for hanging out with us today. And all you guys that hung out.
It's been a slice.
Spent some time with me and my dad while we hung out. And make sure you guys check out bmsglass.com if you are looking to get mood mats or anything like that. Thank you so much, everybody. This is the What's Up Everybody podcast, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Later.